What's up, ladies and gents? SpoonyPizzas here, and today I want to talk to you about stats and how to train your players and some of the things that may think, or perhaps you've got a world superstar like Salah and he's just not performing very well, and there's a reason for this, or he doesn't feel quite right. He's got amazing stats, but for some reason when you have him on the ball, he's like clunky. He feels like a tank when he's turning, and I'm going to try and explain why that might be happening and tell you some of the best stats to put in for each position. So how often do I go, do I hear someone look at a player and go, oh my god, what the fuck, barbecue alert, he hasn't got speed and acceleration. Like, speed and acceleration do not matter in this game. So for a striker, it does depend on the sort of style you're playing, right? Okay, so if you're playing quick counter, then maybe you do want that pace. But remember that speed and acceleration are only good without the ball. When you have the ball, it then turns into dribbling, and then there's like a calculation on dribbling and the actual top speed and acceleration. So when you have the ball, you're not as fast as when you're without the ball. Every time that will always apply. That's why people go, why does a 73 speed defender catch my 99 speed striker? Maybe his dribbling's slow. Maybe you got slow dribbling. Maybe you haven't got the acceleration. Maybe it depends on the touch they take as well. So then you take into ball control into consideration. Tight possession. How close is the ball when you're, how close is the ball? Perhaps when you take that first touch. Are you sprinting? So there's a lot to think about when you're talking about these players and these stats. Do you know what the most important stat for a striker is in this game? Offensive awareness. Offensive awareness. Unless you're playing perhaps a possession style like I do, then you don't really need it. Defensive awareness will determine like how intelligent your striker will make runs forward, trying to time and beat the offside trap, etc. like this. So the higher that offensive awareness, the better. I picked up Benzema because he's a deep lying forward. I want him to link the play. And to be honest, I would probably prefer someone like Mertens, to be honest. And I'm going to touch on that in a little bit later, and you'll sort of see why when I talk about the stats. So what you want to do is like have a game plan about you, what you want to do, right? So my game plan for all my teams, my road to glory and everything like that, is all going to be about possession style play. I want players to drop off. I want my striker to drop off. I don't want my strikers running forward, making amazing runs. I don't need a Romario. I don't need anything like that. I need someone who's going to drop off, link up the play with my midfielders, and build the attacks from there. That's the way I like to play Pez. I don't want to just do 1-2 spam down the middle. That to me is not interesting. That's not fun for me. I like to keep the ball. So what I'm going to do is run through the position. So what are the key stats for a striker? So offensive awareness, definitely one. For me personally, because I'm playing a possession-based style, ball control. That means when he receives the ball, how well he's going to be able to control that ball. Tight possession. It's important to have that, because when I'm not sprinting with the ball, how tight does that ball remain to him? Then obviously, in terms of my style, I need him to lay the ball off, so I need low passing. Lofted passing is not so important. Finishing is a nice to have. Obviously, he's going to be predominantly my goal scorer, so 80 and above for finishing. Anything below that would be hard to accept, to be honest. Kicking power determines how frequently the ball will go past the goalkeeper, more or less. It determines how hard you hit the ball. Physical contact, that's a nice to have. It's not essential, but balance is very, very key in this game. You see the likes of Haaland and Drogba with 50 something, and don't even bother those guys. Like, honestly, as soon as you get touched, if someone's touching you when you strike the ball with a low balance stat, your striker takes a massive deficit of actually hitting the target. And not only that, but they can actually push him off the ball after one or two bits of engagement. Honestly, when I play against Haaland, I'm rubbing my hands, dude. Unless they've boosted that specifically through training, which I'm going to touch on in a bit. So if they've got 68 for balance, it's not the best, but it's nowhere near as bad as Haaland or Drogba, which is just bonkers in my opinion. How can you have Drogba, who's one of the most physically strong players ever to grace the Premier League, and he bullied defenders, and he's got a 56 balance? Doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe the balance stat is bugged. really saying it should be down to physical contact, right? Physical contact versus physical contact. Balance should be around, when you strike the ball, how well do you maintain your balance? Are you getting your foot over the ball when you strike the ball from a volley position, maybe, for example? That, to me, is balance. I think the balance stat is kind of broken in this game. In terms of the player skills, now, because I want the player to link in the play, and this is why I said I like Mertens up front, I want all my midfielders, my striker, and even my fullbacks to have one-touch passing. Because one-touch passing drastically increases, obviously, the accuracy of first-time passes, and in this game, first-time passing is so important. Through passing is a nice to have as well, which Benzema's got. But honestly, because my striker's dropping off, I want one-touch passing with him. I want one-touch passing with my midfielders. And you're going to see that here. And that is one of the reasons I went for Trent over Cancelo. Right? Cancelo, 300k. Trent is 280k, right? Why did I go for Trent? Because he has one-touch pass. Right? And if you're doing like 1-2s down the wing with your fullbacks, you want them to have one-touch pass. They play such a vital role, especially with the possession style that I'm using. So one-touch pass is super important for your fullbacks, in my opinion. It's not essential, but I personally think it is when you play, if you're using your fullbacks. If you're trying to do the meta and you've just got your fullbacks on defensive and you're being, well, you're playing that style. I'm not going to have an opinion on that style because I know a lot of people just want to win. Then by all means go for that. But if you want your attacking fullbacks to be attacking, to create chances, to be dangerous, then one-touch pass is really useful, in my opinion, for your fullbacks. Another thing, right? So when I signed Trent, he had obviously really good lofted pass, but he had terrible tight possession, ball control, all that. So all my training points went into tight possession, right? Because of possession style, you need tight possession, you need ball control. Those are the two main stats that you need. Passing after that. Okay, so you need tight possession, ball control first, passing after that. Dribbling is not too important. Speed and acceleration in this position, not important at all. I don't think speed and acceleration are important in any position. Honestly, I would rather have dribbling, tight possession, ball control over speed and acceleration in every sense. I very rarely train speed and acceleration. The only time it is actually useful is for your defenders, right? So you do actually need one defender to be, I would say have, like here, Van Dijk, 66 acceleration, 72 speed. And we've got Rudiger back here with 72 acceleration, 78 speed. So I've got one defender, he's quite slow, but Rudiger, he's quite fast. He's going to be able to deal with any threats, even Mbappe with that sort of speed and acceleration. You're like, oh, what? How? Well, because like I said, when a striker takes the ball, it comes down to the dribbling stat, and there's some calculations around dribbling, speed, and acceleration. And 9 times out of 10, 78 speed is super quick for a defender. So, no one's going to be able to run away unless they're without the ball. And then that ball has to be perfect. So if the ball's perfect, you just put your hands up and clap and go, well played, what a ball. Obviously my fullback, I haven't actually checked Roberto Carlos, so he probably hasn't got first time passing. So do you know who I'd probably replace this guy with? Guerrero from Borussia Dortmund. Honestly, he's got first time passing. He's the best left back in the game from what I've seen. He's got high tight possession and all that good stuff. Again, Roberto Carlos, great acceleration, speed. A lot of people look at that, kicking power. Yeah, it's fun to have this guy, but honestly, I would take Guerrero over this guy any day of the week. So I will be replacing Roberto Carlos when I get some GP. For midfielders, again, it's the same. I'm boosting the ball control, the tight possession, even the wingers, right? Even the likes of Neymar Jr., right? So I've boosted his acceleration and speed a little bit. And one of the things I want to touch on there actually is because have you ever had it where a world-class player feels awful? I'd say here's a good example because I got him on my other account as a test. Let me just get a contract. Mohamed Salah. Mohamed Salah of all people, right? This guy feels awful. And I'm going to explain why. How many of you have got Mohamed Salah and honestly think he's actually any good? I would be very surprised if you don't think he turns like a tank. The reason for this is because the acceleration is lower than the speed. Always try to have your acceleration above your speed. I don't know what it is. It just makes players feel better. That and tight possession. And obviously I don't know if there's a link between tight possession and dribbling as well. I need to test it further. But certainly speed and acceleration. The acceleration has to be above speed. Otherwise, you're going to find your player plays awful. Always have it above. Not equal to, above if you can. I'll tell you a player who feels really good. Mahrez. And we're going to look at him right now. So he's here as well. I wish I chose this player. Because his acceleration's over his speed. He's got high ball control stats, tight possession, dribbling, etc. Right? And he also plays this possession style based game. So that's perfect for me. What do you look for in a midfielder, right? Obviously, Luka Modric, incredible midfielder. So you can see here, I'm playing a 4-5-1, right? So obviously you need a defensive midfielder. Ideally an anchorman or an orchestrator. Orchestrator plays higher up, anchorman falls deep. So for this one, I've got an anchorman as Busquets. But personally, do you know who's better than him? And probably the best defensive midfielder. And it's not Kante, before you even say. It's not Kante. I know a lot of you are probably going to go, Kante! It's like, no. Because the way I see it is that I want to play my style with the ball, right? I don't need to have a specific player just to get the ball from me. If I defend well enough, I will get the ball. Regardless, right? Once I have the ball, Kante is not all that great. He's not got tight possession. He's not got decent ball control. Let me just take a look. So here he is. Okay, tight possession, 78. It's not too bad. You can boost it. He has got good ball winning qualities. Like I said, that's never in doubt with Kante. But his low ball control, his dribbling isn't all that great. And, you know, you're going to have to spend some points to boost his team play style as well. So just think when you do train this guy, you are going to have to sign some points there. You know, great at winning the ball back. Same for Barrios. People are like, oh, get Barrios. He is awful on the ball. Honestly, I'm like, yeah, sure, you can train it out of him, but I don't want to spend all my training points on these guys. I like to spend my training points on the final product. I save them up once I get a player in that position, like Alexander-Arnold, for example. There's no one better than him right now. I'm going to put all my points into that guy. Okay? I'm going to like literally bombard him. You know, sure, another player might come out of the packs or whatever. I'm not going to buy any more packs, to be honest with you. But if that ever happens, but look at this, right? This is my favorite player for a defensive midfielder. Him and maybe Rodri. But Jorginho, look at this, right? Ball control, tight possession, low pass, lofted pass, all good stuff. Got decent tackling and stuff, you know. He hasn't got blocker. And a lot of people go, oh, you know, people make a big fuss about blocker. Doesn't matter all that much, to be honest. Not that big a influence from the testing I've done. As long as he's got interception, which is more than enough. Fighting spirit's useful to actually win the ball. So when your player is side by side with the player, if he has got that, then he's gonna be able to overpower that player. He's also got obviously one touch pass, which I've already touched on, but he's got through passing, weighted passing, even pinpoint crossing. It's not really too useful from the defensive midfield, but he's an orchestrator role, so he will join my attack, right? I talked about anchorman and orchestrator. Orchestrator will be more further up the pitch when I'm attacking, and this is what I want to do, right? I want to dominate you. I want to get the ball. I want to hold the ball. I want total possession, and this is the way I play. This is how I want to play the game, and I build a side on how I want to play the game, right? So I would go for Jorginho. Again, he's got that team play style as possession. You know, Rodri's pretty good as well. He's an anchorman, and this is probably the reason I went for Jorginho. The fact that Rodri's probably going to sit a little bit deeper, offer me more defensive stability. You know, you got to take into account his height as well. In this position, you're going to deal with a lot of long balls from the goalkeeper, so that is another plus point for this guy. And he's got like all the right abilities. He's even got aerial superiority, which again is useful for dealing with those goal kicks. Kimmich is probably the best. I mean, I just can't justify spending all that money on this guy, though. He's not all that different from Jorginho, if I'm being brutally honest. When it comes to defenders, you know, obviously, you just want to boost those defensive engagement, defensive awareness. Defensive awareness is probably the most important. That means, like, if you've got a striker who's got 99 offensive awareness and your defender's got 94, chances are you're going to be able to deal with him 9 times out of 10. He might get in front of your defender once or twice. But if that defensive awareness is quite low and you're facing someone like Romero, he's going to tear you apart. Your defender's not going to track at the run. You're going to get frustrated and they're just going to create a lot of problems for you. So defensive awareness is probably the most important stat. Tackling is like meh. It's not all that important. Physical contact, because you're probably using, like, if you defend like how I tell you to defend, physical contact is probably more important than tackling, because you just use your left trigger to match up and barge your player or barge your opponent off the ball. Defensive engagement, again, when 2 players come together, he will automatically, if you don't use left trigger, then he will automatically try and win the ball for you through defensive engagement. So that's another plus point. So defensive awareness is definitely the primary stat for a defender. The rest doesn't really matter all that much. You know, they don't have to be ball playing defenders. It's a nice to have, but defensive awareness first before anything else. You know, in terms of Rudiger here, this guy is not a good defender. He's all over the show with that defensive awareness. Honestly, I find him like literally halfway up the field sometimes. I'm like, dude, you need to stay back. You need to stop being like charging out of defense. And that's probably not helped by his role with the destroyer. So Rudiger is not a good player to have in your back line, in my opinion. I've got him there because I just want him to be a little bit more aggressive. And like I said, with the possession style, the defensive line is quite high anyway, so I don't mind maybe one defender going in hard. But obviously, he's my quickest defender, so a ball over the top, and if he's out of position, I am knackered. So I personally would probably prefer Koulibaly. I think he's a better defender than even Van Dijk in terms of the way he feels. Just judging by the way he feels, I've got both in another team. I've got Van Dijk and Koulibaly always feels better for me. For goalkeepers, what's the most important stat? It's got to be reflexes, followed by reach, followed by well, it depends with goalkeeper awareness next. So reflexes, goalkeeper reach, goalkeeper awareness. Then when it comes to catching and parrying, just pick one or the other, right? Don't worry about the other stat. So yeah, either of those stats is good. Obviously catching's probably better, but you'll probably find your goalkeeper's going to parry quite a lot anyway. In terms of, obviously, the player skills for a goalkeeper, you know, low punt, long goalkeeper throws, penalty saver, all really nice to have. You know, it allows you to distribute the ball pretty well. In terms of central midfielder stats, let's have a look at some of these. You know, soul control's a really nice one to have. Through passing. Obviously, we touched on one-touch pass being, you know, so important. Weighted pass is a nice one to have as well, especially if you've got a striker who likes to run in behind. So what the weighted pass does is will take off the pace of the ball. So if you've got like an Mbappe up front, then the weighted pass might be really good for you. When it comes to your attacking midfielders, maybe you want someone who can actually drive with the ball, run with the ball. And this is where, again, acceleration, speed, and dribbling might come into play. I think the way I've leveled up Maradona here is absolutely perfect. He feels amazing with these stats. Absolutely amazing. Honestly, if you were to watch my gameplay with Maradona, he looks like Maradona from the past. So, but again, you can see the stats I'm boosting. Ball control, tight possession, dribbling. Not too fussed about speed and acceleration. 87 and 83, that is real nice. That you've got to have a little gap there, I find, with the speed and acceleration. Balance, great stat to have. Means how well you can fight other players off. Obviously, the other important ones for your fullbacks is pinpoint crossing. Pretty much every defender or fullback seems to have pinpoint crossing, or certainly a lot of them do. So just make sure they do have pinpoint crossing in their arsenal. That's a real nice to have. Just trying to think of anything else I've missed off for the strikers in terms of the player skills. One you cannot do without is first time shot. How many times have you crossed the ball into the box and he's missed from 2 yards? First time shot helps alleviate this, and there is a way to avoid missing the target, and I'm going to bring you a tutorial out on that. So stay tuned for that, because I'm sure a lot of you have crossed the ball into the box, been like 1 yard out from goal, and he's kicked it and it's gone out for a throw, right? And you're probably nodding your head right now, so you know what I'm talking about. You know, the nice to haves are the dipping shot, the rising shot, and all the rest of it. That's just sort of fancy for scoring goals. But first and foremost, in my opinion, this is why I was going to say Mertens, and I'm going to show you why. So here's a base level Benzema, right? Okay, so, you know, tight possession's not too bad. His dribbling's all right. You know, speed and acceleration, not important. Decent finishing, decent offensive awareness, decent ball control. And obviously, we've already seen his player skills, right? Okay, he's missing the first time pass. Now, he's worth 490,000. And here's Mertens, 51,000, right? Just remember the stats that we saw. And now look, very, very similar in terms of, you know, his statistics. His offensive awareness is a little bit less, admittedly, but in terms of tight possession, dribbling, low pass, finishing. But the thing that makes him even better, you know, he's even quicker. I mean, that's not really important for me, like I said before, but if we just look at his skills, gamesmanship, one-touch pass, first-time shot, acrobatic finishing, you know, these are, and he's even got double touch, which is, again, a nice to have, and soul control. That allows you to, like, finesse dribble even better in tight spaces. And he's a deep lying forward as well. So he's going to drop off, he's going to suit my possession style, and he's even got possession game as 72. For the, you know, if you're going for possession side, these are the sort of stats you probably want to look for. I don't tend to, I've tried other team styles, I've tried them all, and I just cannot adapt. I cannot change my mentality of keeping the ball, and all the rest feel like my players just rush forward too quickly. I'm left not really exposed, but just it's a style that I don't enjoy and don't want to play myself. And I love the possession game. I love having the ball. I love controlling and dictating the play. I will go all the way from the striker all the way back to the defender if I have to, just to keep the ball, and even back to the goalkeeper, and draw you out, spread your players apart. Let's look at the Alexander-Arnold training, right? Okay, so this is how I trained him. Okay, I have a good look, you know, look at his tight possession, look at his dribbling, look at his speed, acceleration, 78 for those. His tight possession's 82 now, dribbling 84. Now if we look at base Alexander-Arnold, right? So look at that. Look at his tight possession, 68. That was an eyesore. I was like, gee whiz, that's got to be boosted. What did I say his acceleration and speed were? What, 78? I think 78 for speed and acceleration. 76 to 74. So you can see that I barely put any points there. That was mainly to boost his stamina, if anything. The rest went on, pretty much all my points went into tight possession and ball control, and obviously lofted pass, because that's where he's most effective, right? His delivery, and he's got one touch pass, and obviously I have to put some points into possession game, knock that up to 79. So you can see how I've developed this player to suit my style. If we look at Cancelo, no one touch pass, a bunch of flashy player skills, double touch is nice to have, sombrero, does he really need that? Is he ever going to use that? Maybe. Not very often though. Slide tackle, pretty pointless. Like who uses slide and tackle in this day and age? Yeah, sure, the odd one here and there, but not really all that useful. But he has got high, you know, he's got good stats in terms of tight possession and ball control, so you could boost those even further than Trent's. But I think Trent is absolutely fine the way he feels with the training I did. I've got him now. I think he's probably the best right back that I've got in terms of all my three teams, and I wouldn't swap him for a Cancelo, not at all. Now I know players differ in terms of the player stats from the exhibition games or the trainer matches to those here. Players here tend to be worse, and what I did was go into training mode, and I always see how a player feels, right? You can't get a total accurate feel of how that actually plays out. But in the training, Kevin De Bruyne feels awful. I don't know what his stats are, but he just doesn't feel good to me at all. Partially probably because his speed is above his acceleration. That could be one reason. But he just doesn't feel good at all in the training mode. This guy here, Bernardo Silva and Foden, they feel like two of the best players in the game to control. Just remember, that's in the free training. So you have to, you know, try and mirror the stats back and forth. The only problem with Bernardo Silva, he hasn't got one-touch pass. I had my heart set on Bernardo Silva. I was like, I'm getting this guy. But then when he didn't have a one-touch pass, kind of rules it out for me. You know, don't get me wrong, you can survive without one-touch pass, for sure. But keeping possession of the ball is key for me, and I love just knocking the ball around, let my opponent chase it. Him and Foden feel amazing, and I've actually got Foden in my Road to Glory squad, so definitely recommend that guy. But again, acceleration and speed, acceleration over speed makes him feel good. But if you don't believe me, just go into training match, pick Man City, let me know how you think Bernardo Silva and Foden feel, and then compare that if you've got Mohamed Salah, the special guy over here in your team. You know, this one here. If you got Mohamed Salah from the European Club Championship, let me know who feels better to you, because I can guarantee Foden and Bernardo Silva are far more maneuverable, and they just feel amazing in my opinion. Anyway, thank you all for joining me. Hopefully you guys find this video useful. If you did, don't forget to smash that like button, and if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. Cheers guys. Bye bye.